All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending here. Um, we are going to touch on the Kanaria Metaverse, but first we are going, and only touch. We're not going to go in depth until the full post is out next week, so be patient. But first we'll have to do a reintroduction into Remark just so I can, set the floor for what's coming and what has people excited in the last few days or weeks. So Remark is the most advanced NFT system in the world. It is two things. It is a protocol and it is a set of standards running on top of that protocol. Soon enough, it will be a set of contracts and plugins for blockchains, but that's another story. Anyway, it's a whole suite of logic that you can use to build NFTs that go beyond what they currently are, which we'll go through in a little bit. So my name is Bruno, and you can find me on any of these links. You can always get in touch with me. I will do my best to reply to you as soon as I can. Twitter, Telegram, email, anything works. So right now, NFTs are basically this. You buy them once, and then you hold them in your wallet. They collect digital dust. They don't do anything. On the off chance that an influencer will remember they exist in 5 or 6 years, then a tweet might trigger, re-trigger, revive popularity in a certain collection. But this doesn't really happen a whole lot, except with CryptoPunks and stuff like that. So by and large, NFTs today have no utility, and they're just collectibles that will, be interacted with once in their lifetime. Or in your lifetime. They will be bought and then they will sit in your wallet. Occasionally we'll flip them for profit, but this is also pretty rare. Now, the NFT space is actually could be much more, right? So they have much more potential than what's currently being given to them. And you can think about this if you untrain yourself from the notion that an NFT is just an expensive link to an image, and instead start thinking about NFTs as any custom row of data that you can cryptographically prove that you own it, then you can take it into new heights, new applications, and new approaches that really haven't been done before. Some projects have attempted this, but they were always kind of bespoke, bound to the concept that they're experimenting in, and they were not like generalized enough to be useful across the entire ecosystem. This is what we have changed with Remark. And Remark is what we call art Legos, like you would call, actually a more accurate way to say it is NFT Legos. And like you would expect Ethereum to be money Legos because of that composability in DeFi, Remark is NFT Legos. In many ways, you can expect Remark to be for NFTs what Ethereum was for blockchains in the era of Bitcoin. Nobody knows what's going to get built with this. We have some ideas, but they're nowhere near as wild as what we're going to see coming out in the next year or two or more. So what constitutes these Legos? Well, we have NFTs that are governable as DAOs. Hold on. Why did I skip some? Looks like some of my slides are skipped. Doesn't matter. I'll just narrate them. So we have 5 elementary NFT Legos. One is NFTs can own other NFTs. So an NFT can contain other NFTs inside of itself. The an offshoot of that functionality is NFTs can equip other NFTs and modify their visual output. So you have composable NFTs that will visually change based on which other NFT they contain and equip into certain predefined slots. The other Lego, one other Lego, is multi-resource NFTs, and that's arguably one of the most important ones, where you can actually have one NFT be multiple things at once, have multiple outputs at once. A canonical example I keep bringing up is an ebook, where that ebook NFT has a PDF file, an audio file, and a high-resolution cover. And if you load it into Audible, it'll play. And if you load it into Kindle, you'll be able to read the PDF. And if you load it into OpenSea, you'll just see the cover. But other use cases come to mind as well. For metaverses in particular, because every NFT is multi-resource and can contain different outputs for itself, inside of itself, you no longer rely on a centralized intermediary, a centralized production company to produce your 3D models and help them and have them integrated into the metaverse in question. So right now, when you buy an NFT that's supposed to be compatible with a metaverse, you still rely on a 3D company to make a version of that NFT. And then the metaverse creators, so the game production company or team behind the metaverse application, has to actually integrate that model into their environment, where you now rely on two teams to actually do this and make it happen, the people doing the modeling and the people doing the integrating, and sometimes they're the same entity. This is not very censorship resistant or decentralization friendly. But when an NFT contains within itself everything it needs to function in a metaverse, then you effectively create an eternal virtual world. For example, you can imagine if a plot of land in a metaverse contains a little image of land, that little image of land will always be renderable in a metaverse environment, where however you pull that image and render it. But it can also have an alternative, like a cover image, like an alternative look to the land piece, which is friendly to marketplaces and so on. So in a marketplace, it wouldn't really look good to see a little pixelated square of land, but in a marketplace, you need a different representation. And then if that land is, let's suppose that we have a metaverse and it has these, it supports Remark NFTs. What's possible with this is that somebody will build a 2D interface for that metaverse, and somebody will build a 3D interface, a 3D client for that metaverse, and they can still use the same NFTs and achieve the same functionality, because that one NFT, that one piece of land, will have three different resources. One, for visualizing in the marketplaces so it's pretty. Two, for being rendered in a 2D environment, like a pixelated square. And three, a 3D model of the land's texture or whatever that needs to be put into the metaverse that is 3D. And you can keep adding new resources to NFTs to evolve them over time and to make them evolve with the community and with the technology around them, so that they really don't get stuck in a dusty attic, in a dusty digital attic. This is what we mean when we say that Remark 2 NFTs are, well, Remark NFTs are forward compatible and eternally liquid. You can essentially guarantee that NFTs will be forward compatible with any project coming out in the future because of this multi-resource aspect, because you don't have to know in advance which resources an NFT will need. And so this is incredibly powerful because you can extend its life. And as an NFT becomes compatible with future projects, it is basically becoming deflationary, because it's the demand for this NFT keeps increasing as it becomes compatible with more universes. So now if I have a baseball cap and it's compatible with one game, that's cool. But suddenly another game comes out that makes it compatible with it, and now it's in demand in two universes, and so on. But there's still only one cap, right? We also have on-chain emotes where you can send reactions like social reaction, thumbs up, flex, and whatever, poop, to NFTs so that they can actually react to these emotions. And then we have conditional rendering, which will let you switch these resources that I just mentioned based on some conditions on and off chain. Send 50 kissy emojis to Mona Lisa and make her blush, for example. And so these tiny reactions are nestable within each other, and these Legos can be composed into an infinite number of combinations that really make a very complex NFT system possible. And finally, there's this NFTs being governed as DAOs. Because these NFTs are designed to be interacted with and not speculated on, in this case, it's very popular in Ethereum to fractionalize NFTs in order to gamble on them. In this case, you would fractionalize them to govern the NFT as a community. For example, if I have an NFT like a game character, then I can give the tokens of that game character to my community, and they will collectively decide what that game character will equip, because they will issue the equip command to that NFT. So you can think about collaborative Twitch streaming, for example, or things like that. So now technically this is how this works. We have a few entities in Remark. A base is like a blueprint for all the possible resources in an NFT collection, and it has parts and themes. NFTs have resources that are static or base, so either a static image like an SVG or PNG, or a base which is composable. And NFTs belong to collections. Visually, an NFT used to be just a link to an image. Now it's basically a crate of different resources, a 3D model at the same time as a PDF, at the same time as a JPEG, at the same time as an SVG, and so on. Now a collection is a collection of those boxes, so it's a palette of boxes, right? And so the NFT can have an image resource, which is just a single resource, an image. So these are the plain NFTs that you're used to today. But it can also have an alternative resource that's a PDF resource. And this PDF resource is equivalent in priority to the NFT, but you can switch which one comes first, which one is rendered by default. So, you can also put a base as a third resource in there, and the base is composed of different layers that can be themed or slots that other NFTs can be put into. And now, if you have such an order like image, base, PDF, then as you render it in an advanced marketplace like Singular, then the image will be rendered first, but you'll be able to scroll through other resources that exist on this NFT, so the base and the PDF. But if you switch the priority of the resources, which you can do as the owner of the NFT, then you can make the PDF render first. And so in Singular, you will then get the book to read inside the UI immediately as you open this NFT, and the image will actually be the last resource in the list. Let's demonstrate this on an example of a collection that we're going to be launching soon and allowing people to publicly extend. So everybody from the community will be able to draw different equipables and build an item economy for this set of avatars. And we'll also be making our previous collection compatible in part with these avatars. It's going to be really interesting. So we have this character who would like to hold something in his hand. And let's say that's a flag and a pencil. But if you just put that into a finished image, you get this, right? You can't tell the pencil to go behind the fingers. So to solve this problem, you split the hand from the fingers and you give them different Z indexes. So the body is Z index 0 and the hands are Z index 2. So Z index 1 is the slot. So that's what I mentioned here before. A slot part is between two themed parts. All right, so now we can put these things in between here. And now if you put this into a frame, you can see that this character, this chunky, holds these items rather well. But the flag, if you look at it on its own, is kind of to the right, right? It's not centered. And so if you look at this in a marketplace where it's rendered as a standalone NFT, and every one of these NFTs is a standalone NFT like any other, it would look weird if it's not centered. And this is what most other projects that are trying to do equipables today encounter because they don't have multi-resource NFTs. And this is where this comes into play. We make another resource for this flag that is centered and bigger. And this is the representative resource that we'll see in the marketplaces. And so we have one that is equipable and one that is representative for the marketplaces. Now let's say that another character shows up later on, totally unrelated project, wants to become compatible with these objects. We now have the same model of splitting the hand, but now the flag is a little different. It's at a different angle and it's smaller. So again, we add a third resource, and this third resource is compatible with this new project. And now we have two projects that can equip the very same NFT, deflating the NFT itself, increasing its demand, but keeping it all in one NFT, not needing to mint something else. And so this is how this would work. Now, one demo of all of these Legos being put together is Kanaria. Kanaria are our birds that demonstrate this. That's a proof of concept and our pilot program that actually demonstrates all of these Legos being put together, where we actually have composable SVG birds that hatched from NFT eggs that reacted to people's emotions. So if you sent like 50 fire extinguishers to your egg, there was a high chance that your bird would be born with a fire extinguisher in its hand. And this fire extinguisher is a separate NFT that you can sell separately. So we have a very vibrant and rich item economy going. So a bird is composed of base parts that are layered on top of each other as SVGs. And we have a custom renderer for this type of NFT. And then you can apply themes and looks to these different parts and mix them up. So this is how you get crazy combinations of these birds. Then we have slots that are defined in the base resource. So in the base, we define certain Z indexes and locations of these slots that can contain other NFTs. And so you have the head, chest, left hand, right hand, background. And you can then put random items into these. And all of these items are unequipable and tradable individually as separate NFTs that you can trade with other people. And so if you put this all together, you get a themed bird that has crazy combinations and a very vibrant and rich item economy that is extensible into the future with any other project that might come out later on. And so this is where we actually have also an inventory management system, where you can manage the items that your bird has. Since the NFTs are nestable, NFTs can contain any other NFT, even if it's unrelated to the project. This NFT, for example, has a Polkadot decoded ticket that is non-transferable. It has some gems, it has some items that are not equipped, and it even has some fungible tokens inside. So you can use it as a container for fungibles. So what this kind of becomes is a metaverse-friendly avatar which can contain all the resources it needs to exist in a metaverse. And in this metaverse, a bird will be able to be represented as a pixelated sprite, for example. As you can see on the screen, these little pixelated people. We can draw a custom version of this bird in 8 different sprite positions, east, west, north, south, and then running east, north, west, and south. And the game will know when to render which sprite. What this makes possible is that this avatar contains every single graphical resource that it needs to be rendered in this metaverse. And this means that anybody can run the UI, anybody can run the metaverse. There's no centralized server, there's no centralized production company. The standard is open, and it's very clear by the specification how this UI for the metaverse is supposed to be built. And this is what enables other people to actually rebuild different versions of this metaverse, different clients, and keep that virtual world alive indefinitely. There's no server to kill here. There's nothing to destroy your experience in terms of, company went bust, and so now the game doesn't exist anymore. The ultimate goal is to have an internally working metaverse that you can evolve long into the future. You will be passing these birds on to your grandkids. So, not just the birds, but the items in the game and the buildings and the real estate and everything that's coming. And what's coming is a metaverse in which, so when you're building metaverses, you have 2 options. One is to go full 3D, usually in the browser, and the other is to go fully casual. Right now, everybody's pursuing the 3D option because it looks cooler, arguably. What we're doing, as usual, is running in the opposite direction and trying something more extreme, trying something hyper casual, where the metaverse is actually going to be a pleasant experience to fire up whenever you are, without having to sit down behind a computer, don a VR headset, or do anything complicated like go through complicated login processes or something like that. So this is going to be a hyper casual experience, and I just want to show you the video that teases this experience a little bit. This is not the assets from the game itself, but this is just the concept art.
This is the Metaverse, a virtual reality location where people can unite in communities and govern this virtual world together. In a Metaverse, people and communities can own land, just like land is an NFT that can contain other NFTs. So Bob buys a plot of land. Then he buys a billboard NFT at an NFT marketplace, like singular.rmrk.app. Bob sends the billboard NFT to the land NFT. The land now owns the billboard, and Bob owns the land. Bob orders the land to equip the billboard, and the billboard becomes visible in the metaverse. Bob splits the billboard into tokens and gives them to the community of the metaverse. Now they own the billboard together. When corporations realize that the metaverse is full of people, they'll want to put their message onto Bob's billboard. So they create NFTs with their messages and send them to the billboard NFT. And then they communicate with the billboard's token holders community to convince it to show their message and not the competitor's one. The community collectively decides which of the offers is better and chooses the message to display at the billboard. This is the community-governed virtual real estate made possible by the Remark multi-chain platform and the Remark NFT standards. Discover more possibilities at rmrk.app.
All right, so that's it. We have this future of collaborative experiences in the virtual world with Harbinger taxed land, with advertisements that actually benefit the users of that metaverse, and other very interesting ideas that you'll learn more about next week. For now, If there are any questions, we have, I think, a minute or two to answer a few.
We do indeed. And Bruno, thank you so much. I love the presentation. It was great. And we've got everyone in the chat. Thank you to everyone that has taken some time to ask some questions. I'm going to run through as many as I can in the time. So first off, we have our Remark looking to work with music artists and producers to create music streaming platforms that can pay royalties on chain.
Music streaming platforms, no, not in particular, because that's a whole different company to build and a very complicated project. But our standards do support very interesting music use cases where you can actually mint, for example, an empty music sheet. Then people can mint tracks, vocals, bass, and everything else into that music sheet. You end up with a playable music song, a playable composition that was collaboratively composed. If you fractionalize that into tokens, then the song knows exactly to whom to distribute the royalties from each subsequent sale. And it's all automatic and on-chain. So yeah, the tech supports this, but a platform will probably not be built up by us, but I do hope somebody does do it.
So if anyone is watching, they can take note. You've given the idea kind of a thumbs of approval. One other question is, are you planning on purchasing physical assets like artwork, for example, and then turning them into digital art assets and uploading them onto the Meta?
No, not at all. There are other projects, other blockchains that deal with fungibilization or NFTization of physical assets. You have Centrifuge there leading the pack, and other efforts. This is not something that is too interesting to us. We do play with phygital goods, where you kind of embed the record of an NFT into a physical item, and that's fun. But it is in no way our focus or our intended plan of development. We want to build the NFT platform of the future that will, frankly, take over NFT development. And for that, we'll focus on the protocols. If somebody else wants to leverage those to do that, they absolutely can.
One other question we have is, how do you ensure illegal stuff is not taking place on your metaverse? Is there going to be a virtual or decentralized police?
So there, a police, no, but there will be community curation. So you will be able to, there's a world governance model in place where the denizens of this world will vote on what to import into the metaverse in terms of assets and making them compatible, and how to, when somebody needs to be kicked off, then it's again a democratic vote, but ultimately there is definitely a possibility that somebody is going to do something unsightly and put something like that in there. I am of the opinion that this is an acceptable risk. I always err on the side of freedom, and I think the community will handle that relatively well.
Okay, awesome. And also, as a game developer, can we start building permissionless right now using Remark?
Right now, no. Right now, we're rebuilding the logic of Remark from the native Kusama approach that we're using currently to two versions. One is the Solidity version, so it can work on any EVM chain, and the other is the Palette version, so it can work as a plugin for any parachain in the Kusama and Polkadot ecosystem. We have tremendous interest from both types of chains, multiple candidates, multiple teams of both types of chains. So you can expect a rapid expansion of the Remark standards and technology in a very near term. But right now, I would not recommend building anything super serious in terms of games on the current version of Remark, purely because there are some impracticalities in the code that cannot be worked around because of the limitations of the chain.
And now, because it sounds like you've been extremely busy this year, the $1 million question is, are you working on anything else right now? And what other projects are you working on, if so?
Yes, but I can't share anything yet. But there are a few projects in the pipeline related to Remark, but I can't share that yet.
No problem. So then one final question, how secure is the data for these NFTs? And often the data is stored on web, unless if it's changed, is there any way to make sure the owner is correct?
Well, the ownership is always cryptographically provable. That is no challenge. That's always absolutely secure as the blockchain itself. The data itself, right now we store it on IPFS, and we pin it for you for like who knows how many years into the future. what you actually get as an extra benefit when we fully transition our current marketplace to all of the Remark 2 functionality, and Remark 2 is the NFT Legos that I spoke about. Multi-resource NFTs allow you to have redundant data sources for an NFT. So whereas you might use the ebook NFT as a way to have different outputs for that ebook, depending on the context you load it in, you can also use this approach to actually have one resource that is so let's say that you have a Bored Ape NFT. One resource could be that image hosted on IPFS. One resource could be that same image hosted on Arweave. Another could be that same image hosted on SIA. Another could be that same image hosted on Filecoin or whatever else. And so now you get the copy. You get a copy of that image in 4 different protocols, 4 different types that keep it secure. And there's a very, very low chance that all 4 will die at the same time. So Remark 2 makes NFTs much more secure in terms of the media that they represent.
Next up, we have one final question from Donny Big Bags, who's asking, when land auctions?
When land auctions? 2022. It's not going to be auctions, though. You will be buying land directly for Remark tokens. But an interesting mechanic is going to be harbinger tax inside of the metaverse, where popular locations that see high foot traffic or have high impact on the metaverse itself will actually be harbinger taxed, and you will buy them by paying ownership tax over time. And as soon as you miss a payment, it will revert to the default owner, which is the world, and then anybody else can scoop it up. And at any point in time, while you own it, anybody else can buy it from you for 10% more than the price you paid, which means that this encourages fair price discovery of land, because if you pay more, there's a lower chance that somebody will scoop it up from you, but you will be paying more in tax. And this tax will also be funding the maintenance of the metaverse and other aspects of the entire community.
Fantastic. So watch this space. Bruno, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Really fascinating, and look forward to seeing what you guys achieve in 2022.
My pleasure.